Hi and welcome. My name is Tolan and I'm the co-founder of Productivity Me. In this video, we're going to look at how to use the data tool of text to columns. We'll look at the first of two methods in this video. We'll look at using the delimited method of text to columns. So with that, let's get started. All right, if you want to follow along, go ahead and open up exercise file 06.04. You can find a link to download this file in the description section of this video. Okay, so there are going to be situations where perhaps you're gathering information online and you want to break that information apart. So let's say that maybe we didn't have this person's first and last name, or maybe we just had their email address. Let's first go ahead with the idea of their first and last name. So I'm going to go ahead here and click on column B to select column B, and then I'm going to hit Control C to copy. You can also come here and go to copy. And then we'll go to delimited. Here, then we can press Control V in order to paste, or you could come here and go to paste, that too would work. And so we have these individuals and their names here. Now, if we wanted to separate it into first and last name, we could do that in the following way. We could use the tool called the text to columns tool, and you're gonna find that by going to the data tab, and then we're going to use this tool here in the data tools group. So we would select the column we want, go to text to column, and there are two choices. So the first choice is the first choice is what's called characters, or delimited. So it uses a character such as comma or spaces to separate each field. Fixed width is going to use the same number of characters, and that's something we'll discuss in the next video. When we press next, it's going to ask us what we want to use as a character. So we can use tab, we can use semicolon, comma, if there was a comma, but we're going to use the character of a space, because generally there are spaces between all of these individuals' first and last names. So we'll say OK, and then once we click next, it's going to give a series of choices. The column data, it's essentially going to ask us what we want to format it as. Technically we could put text, but if we leave it as general, Microsoft Excel will kind of guess what we want it to be. So in this case, it would be totally fine. We'll hit OK. And then this would be their full name and their last name. So we were able to separate their name. An alternative to doing that is you could say copy this to the next column and then again make a duplicate and then go to text to columns. We'll do delimited. We'll click next. We'll again use spaces and then hit general, and that would say separate their first and last name. So here we could have first name, and then last name, or maybe family name. We could double click this cell to make it the right size, and then last name, we could do that too. We could even come and use the format painter like we've discussed earlier to give that the same set of formatting. So that's one way to use the delimited text to columns tool in order to break up something with a space. We'll look at a second example here where it's perhaps a bit more complex. We'll go ahead and copy this column here by selecting that column and then using the keyboard shortcut Control C. We'll then go to delimited and let's paste it here. So we'll go to Control V. Now, in this case, if we were to want to extract the person's first and last name, it would take a couple more steps. So essentially, we have their first name and then a period and then Walker, or I guess last name, and then at techcompany.com. So we're going to do this in two steps. We'll do it in the first step would be to perhaps break apart their first name. Hit Control Z to undo that. We'll go ahead and break apart their first name. So we would select that column, or maybe we'd even make a copy. Let's paste it in here. And then we can scroll over. And what we're going to do is select that column, go to data, and then once we're in data, we'll go to data tools group, select text to column. Again, we're going to use delimited because the individuals have different names. So Jack is a 4-character name, Tim is a 3-character name, Yvonne seems to be 6, but maybe I'm counting incorrectly. So again, we're going to use delimited. Now, we can do this in 2 steps or 1 step. I suggest using it in 2 steps. So we know that it's basically, let's look here. It's Jack period Walker. So it's first name period last name. So we can break it up by inserting a period, and you'll see what will happen. So we'll hit OK, go to next, and then finish. And then this becomes their first name. Oops. And then we want to separate their last name. So essentially now we have text entries where it's their last name followed by what's called is it an ampersand? An @ symbol, whatever it is, it's the symbol that you use for email addresses. So we'd select that column and let's go like this. Let's go to text to columns, and then we'll say, rather than use a period, let's use a @ symbol, which you can often get to by pressing the Shift key and the number 2 if you're on a US QWERTY keyboard. And then we're going to hit next and finish. And it's going to prompt us that there's already existing data in column H because we used text to columns and we removed the periods, or we broke at the periods. So it broke at that first period, that of Jack, and then at the second period of .com. So it's just asking us if we want to replace this. We'll say OK. And then we would have this individual section broken off from tech company. So what we could do is we could then go here and we could delete that information, and we could say, call this last name, and maybe even use the format painter that we learned about earlier in the course to do that. Now we would have to use a function or manually go in and change their names to capital letters if we wanted to, but that's beyond the scope of this individual lesson. In this specific lesson, we wanted to discuss the idea of how to use the text to column tool here. And we first did an example where we copied the individual's first name and pasted it here in column 1, and then we broke it up by separating with a space. And then the second example was we went and we took their individual email addresses, we pasted it here, and then we broke it up in a 2-step process. The first step process was breaking things using a period, and the second was breaking by an asterisk. But alternatively, we could have easily done first separating by asterisk and then separating by period. That too would have been an option. Okay, so in the next video, we'll go ahead and look at the second option of text to columns, that of fixed width. So go ahead and join us for that, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.